Rubinstein, French Defence, Side 1. First of all, before commencing the tape, I'm going to talk about the different ways a Rubinstein position can arise, because there's one strict way, and that's 1 e4 e6, 2 d4 d5, 3 knight c3, d takes e4. This is the Rubinstein variation. But on this tape I'm going to look at some positions which are very similar to this position, and one of them is 1 e4 e6, 2 d4 d5, 3 knight c3, knight f6, 4 bishop g5, d takes e4. Now this is almost identical to the strict Rubinstein, and this is the first type of Rubinstein that I'm going to examine. Another possibility to reach a Rubinstein position is after e4, e6, d4, d5, knight d2, knight f6, then bishop d3, d takes e4 now. And this is also a Rubinstein position. So the Rubinstein can arise from lots of different move orders, and they're all slightly different, but basically the type of position is the same. The Rubinstein is a very sound opening, and black has no difficulty in developing his pieces, but on the other hand it's a very passive opening, and it concedes a lot of control in the centre to white. It's played often by Petrosian. He's an expert at this line, and he used it to good effect, but in practice white normally builds up a considerable initiative. Right, the first game we're going to look at is the game Clothine against Petrosian, played in the 43rd Russian Championship, 1975, and it was the first possibility I mentioned. It was 1 e4 e6, 2 d4 d5, 3 knight c3, knight f6, 4 bishop g5, d takes e4. Now this is one of the most interesting Rubinsteins, and the line played in this game by black is one of the most double-edged tries. After 4 d takes e4, white recaptured knight takes e4, and black played bishop e7. It's also possible to play knight d7, but bishop e7 puts more pressure on white. It forces white to exchange on f6. Clothine played bishop takes f6. And now switch off the tape and see what you did next as black. Now Petrosian played the move g takes f6. This is an interesting move, and probably it's not quite sound, but Petrosian is such a good defensive player that he can probably get away with it against almost anybody. In fact, he used it to a good effect against Fischer in the candidates match at Buenos Aires. He had a very good position, and he allowed a draw by threefold repetition in a probably winning position. But he's probably the only player who is able to master the defensive problems. The alternative to g takes f6 is bishop takes f6, but then white can simply develop by knight f3, and I'll give a quick example here. After knight f3, knight b7, 8 queen d2, castles king side, 9 castles queen side by white. Black played b6. Now white played 10 queen f4. And this example that I've given is Lubojevic against Quinteros in a Spanish tournament, Renzo in 1975. After 10, Queen F4, White has a clear advantage, can build up a strong attack by playing Bishop D3 and Knight E5. Return to diagram 1 after 6 G takes F6. Now, this type of position is not dissimilar to the Caro-Con G takes F6, which has been very popular recently, and it has been shown to be viable for black and gives black good chances. In this position, black doesn't have the dynamic counterplay that he does in the Caro-Con, but it's still not bad. And I'm going to show another game in which black wins very quickly from this opening, a game Kaplan against Blurb. After Petrosian played G takes F6, Cloven played 7 Knight F3, and Petrosian played B6. The other game, Kaplan-Bornstein, black played Knight D7, and I don't think there's much choice between them. Petrosian played B6, White played Bishop D3, also possible is Bishop C4, Bishop D3, Black played Bishop B7, White played Queen E2, Black played Knight D7, White played 10 castles queenside, Black played C6, White played King B1, Black played Queen C7. Now White played the move 12 Rook HE1. If he played 12 Bishop A6, Black can trap the Queen by Bishop takes A6, Queen takes A6, B5. But Cloven played 12 Rook HE1, Petrosian castle queenside. White played Bishop A6. Black took Bishop takes A6. White recaptured, Queen takes A6 check. Black played Queen B7. White played Queen E2. Black played Rook HG8. White played G3. Now Black played King B8. Now let's stop and have a look at this position because it's a fairly typical one from this opening. Now Black's got this weaknesses on the king side, but at the moment White can't really get at them because he's got to move his knights away, and this will enable Black to break in the centre with probably C5 or E5. Nevertheless, White's still got a long-term advantage in the fact that these pawns, if all the pieces were taken off in a king and pawn ending, White would be able to win fairly easily just by marching his king over to attack them. But Petrosian has shown great confidence in these systems, and it's shown that it's very difficult for White just to simply do this, to aim for the better ending. After King B8, White played the move 17A3. He wanted to play C4, but after C4, Black can play Bishop B4, which is slightly awkward for White. So he played A3. Now switch off the tape and see what you do for Black here. Petrosian played B5. And this looks a very risky move, advancing a pawn in front of your king, and also it leaves C5 much weaker. But the idea of B5 is to position the knight on the good square, either D5 or C4. And also Black has some chances of starting up a queenside attack, which he shows in the next few moves. White played
18 rook d3 in order to maneuver his rook across. Black played king a8. White played rook c1, threatening to play c4. Black played knight b6. White played knight c5. Now Petrosian could have captured now and then placed the knight on d5, but White still has a slight advantage. Petrosian played the move queen c7. Now White tried to push through c4 with knight d2. Black played the move rook d5. This move holds up c4 by threatening to take the knight on c5. So Klovan now played knight from c5 to b3. Now he's planning to play c4, but Petrosian now played rook b8. Now after c4, knight takes c4, knight takes c4, b takes c4, rook takes c4. White's in some trouble down the b file after rook d to b5. So White now decided to drive away the rook by playing knight f1, 23 knight f1. Petrosian played knight c4. White played knight e3, 24 knight e3. Black played rook from d5 to d8. Now White played rook c3, challenging the knight. Black took, knight takes e3. Now White recaptured with the pawn. F takes e3. Black played b4. White played a takes b4. Black played bishop takes b4. White played rook c4. Petrosian played rook d5. White played 29 rook f1, attacking the weakened f-pawns. Black played f5. Now White's got a slight advantage here because White has pressure against the king side and also Black's queen side pawns are weak. Now White decided to play 30 e4. Petrosian captured, f takes e4. White recaptured, 31 queen takes e4. Black played h5. Now White decided to attack, queen h7. He could have simply remaneuvered his knight c1 to d3, but probably felt that it was too risky and decided this was the best try. 32 queen h7. Black played rook to b7. White played queen h8 check. Black played rook b8. White played queen g7. Black played rook b7. Now White, instead of checking Black, could have played rook takes b4, followed by rook takes f7, and White's got good chances there because his pieces are very powerfully positioned. But after 34 queen g7, rook b7, White again played queen g8 check. Black played rook d8. White now played queen g5. Black played rook d5, and it looked as though the players would agree to a draw here because the position is equal, but White decided to play on queen g8 check, rook d8, queen h7, again attacking the pawn, rook d5. Now White played queen e4. Now I'm going to stop the game here because White could have agreed a draw by queen g8 check and queen g7, and also keep playing queen g5 to g8. And the rest of the game is in the booklet. Petrosian won a very nice endgame through white trying too hard to win. Now go back to diagram 1 after 6 g takes f6, and we're going to have a look at a game Kaplan against Bronstein, played at Hastings 75 to 76. Now again on move 7 white played knight f3, but Bronstein played differently from Petrosian. He played knight d7. White played queen d2. It's possible that instead of queen d2, bishop c4 is more accurate, because after queen d2, Bronstein played c5. White played d5. This would have a lot more effect after bishop c4. Now after d5, 9d5, switch off the tape and see if you can find black's next move. Black played f5, attacking the knight. No, white blundered here. He played d takes e6. He should have played knight c3 when white still got the advantage because of the doubled pawns. After d takes e6, Bronstein played f takes e4. White played e takes d7 check. Black played queen takes d7. After bishop takes d7, knight e5 is good for white. Queen takes d7. No, white played a bad move. He played queen to c3. This looks very strong, but it was better to play queen takes d7 check, bishop takes d7, knight e5. After queen c3, Bronstein came up with castles kingside, which white may have overlooked. White played knight d2, and black played queen to f5. Now black's pieces are very well placed, and white has trouble developing. White castled queenside on move 14. Now switch off the tape and see what you would play as black here. Bronstein played a very daring move. He played 14 queen takes f2. Very aggressive. But in fact this is good. It stops any possibilities of white ever playing queen g3, and also it opens up possibilities along this black diagonal from c1 to h6. After queen takes f2, white played knight takes e4, otherwise he'll be a pawn down. Black played queen f4 check. White played knight d2, and black played bishop g4, and we can see that white's already getting very tied up just defending this knight on d2. After bishop g4, white played rook e1, black played bishop g5. Now white played bishop to d3, blocking the d file, and black played rook a e8. White played rook from e1 to f1, and black played queen to e3. Now white decided to try and get rid of these annoying bishops and played h3, but he was surprised by black's next move. Switch off and see if you can find it. Bronstein played bishop e2, 20 bishop e2, and now white's in real trouble. He played 21 rook f5. If he plays 21 rook e1, then queen f2 is very strong with the threat of bishop takes d3. So rook f5, then black played bishop to h6. White played bishop takes e2. Black played queen takes c3. White played b takes c3. Black played rook takes e2. White played rook d5. Now switch off the tape and see if you can find black's next move. He played 24, rook takes d2. White recaptured, rook takes d2. Black played rook d8. White played 26, rook d1. Now black played a really crushing winning move. He played 26 c4. And white resigned because he's in zugzwang. Sooner or later he'll have to move his king to b1 or b2, losing the rook on d2. That was a very nice game by Bronstein, and he demonstrated some of the possibilities of the defence, but he would have had a lot more trouble if white had played knight c3 on move 10. Right, now back to the start position. Another game featuring this kind of Rubinstein, a very recent game, Spassky Unziker, played at Munich 1980. Went 1 e4 e6, 2 d4 d5, 3 knight c3 knight f6, 4 bishop g5 d takes e4, 5 knight takes e4. And now Unziker played the very solid knight bd7, 5 knight bd7. Now Unziker's a very classical grandmaster and also very strong positional play, and therefore he's probably able to play these lines without much difficulty. But this way of playing with knight bd7 leaves white with a clear initiative. After 5 knight bd7, Spassky played 6 knight f3. Black played bishop e7. Now white capture on f6, knight takes f6 check, black recaptured with the bishop, bishop takes f6, white captured again, bishop takes f6, black recaptured with the knight, knight takes f6. Now a very typical position has been reached, and white's only got a slight initiative in this position, but on the other hand black is restricted in his possibilities of counterplay. He has to develop his queen's bishop, which is quite awkward, and white has the possibility of casting queenside. And I think this isn't very suitable in playing for a win as black, but very useful when playing against somebody who's slightly stronger than you and probably hoping to hold a draw against. Spassky played now 9 bishop d3 and Unziker played c5. Now white has a difficult decision. After d takes c5, and black can play queen a5 check and follow up with queen takes c5. So Spassky played the move 10 queen d2. Now switch off the tape and see what you would play as black here. Unziker played the simple c takes d4, allowing Spassky's next move, which is 11 queen to b4. Now this looks awkward for black, preventing him from castling, and it is if he plays queen e7 trying to exchange the queens. After queen e7, bishop b5 check. If he plays bishop d7, white captures, bishop takes d7 check, and after knight d7, white can play queen takes b7. or queen takes d4, both with a slightly better position. So Unzuka found another move, knight d5, forcing white to capture on d4 with the queen. 12 queen takes d4. Now black castled kingside, and Spassky chose to castle queenside here. 13 castles queenside. Now this was in fact a risky decision, since black has a half-open file against white's king, and eventually this will be a factor in his favour, but Spassky felt probably that his attack on the king side would be sufficiently quick to make this not too relevant. But Unzuka played quite well. He played 13 queen c7, white played 14 rook h to e1, black played bishop d7, white played 15 knight e5, black played rook f to d8. Now white played 16 queen to e4. Now this is where I'm going to end looking at this game, because black had an equal position and was able to draw the game fairly easily. In fact, although the game was a draw in 41 moves, black was slightly better because he was able to get an attack on the king side with rook a to c8 and bishop b5. After 16 queen e4, black played knight f6, white played queen to h4, and now black played rook a to c8. And now black has the threat of playing bishop b5 because of this pressure on c2. And this shows that with careful play it's possible to equalise with the Rubinstein as black, but unfortunately I don't think black can do any more than that. The Rubinstein was featured a lot in the Spassky-Petrosian 66 match, with Spassky doing very well against it. A typical example was after 4 bishop g5, d takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop e7, Spassky played 6 bishop takes f6, and Petrosian chose to take back with the bishop instead of taking with the pawn. Bishop takes f6. White played knight f3. Black played knight d7 on one occasion, but also possible was bishop d7, played in the 23rd game of the match. Then white played queen d2, black played bishop c6. This manoeuvre I'm going to comment on the other side of the tape. Bishop c6, 9 knight takes f6 check, queen takes f6, 10 knight e5, castles kingside, 11 castles queenside. Now Petrosian in the 23rd game of the match played knight d7, and then Spassky played knight takes c6, b takes c6, h4, with a winning advantage to white, because he threatens to exchange the queens by queen g5, which will leave white with a decisive advantage on the queen side because of black's weakened pawns. Spassky played this line in a later game against Donner. Donner came up with an improvement. Instead of knight d7 he played rook to d8, but then Spassky played queen e3, so that if knight d7, knight takes c6 again. Black played bishop e8. Now Spassky played 13 g3, again with a slight advantage, because White's threatening to play bishop g2 and also support his knight on e5 by f4. Now turn over to side 2. Now we're going to have a look at some games involving the classical Rubinstein, that is after 1 e4 e6, 2 d4 d5, 3 knight c3 d takes e4, 4 knight takes e4. Now I'm going to pay particular attention to a maneuver popularized by Romanian Grandmaster Schuber, and that is playing 4 bishop d7 with the idea of playing bishop c6. This is an interesting maneuver for black, and probably his best chance in these lines to gain active play. But again, I don't think it's quite good enough, and we're going to have a look at one complete game where the deficiencies of this move are shown up. After 4 bishop d7, White normally plays 5 knight f3. Black plays bishop c6. Now we're going to look at a game Timon against Bukic at Bourgogne 78, where White played the move 6 bishop d3. Now White can also play other moves, which we'll look at later, and one of them is queen d3. Another minor possibility at this point is knight from e4 to g5. Black plays bishop e7. White plays bishop c4. Black played bishop d5. White captures, bishop takes d5, queen takes d5. White castles. Black plays knight d7. Queen e2. Bishop takes g5. c4. Queen f5. Bishop takes g5. Knight gf6. d5. And now black castled kingside. Now these moves were featured in the game Planets against Bukic in the Yugoslav Championship 1978, and White has a slight advantage due to the weakness of black's king pawn. Right, back to diagram 2. Timon played 6 bishop d3. Now Bukic played knight d7. You probably knew about the move 6 bishop takes e4, which was played in the game Spassky O'Kelly, San 169. After 6 bishop takes e4, 7 bishop takes e4, c6, 8 castles, knight f6, 9 bishop d3. White has slight advantage and no problems. He's just simply got the 2 bishops and a slight space advantage. After 6 knight d7, Timon castled, 7 castles. Black played knight gf6. White captured, knight takes f6 check. And now switch off the tape and see what you'd play for black here. Bukic in fact played queen takes f6, but this is a mistake. He should have played knight takes f6 when White still has the advantage after bishop g5 or c3. Queen takes f6 is very good if White plays bishop g5, losing a piece to bishop takes f3. But now Timon played a very good move. Switch off and see if you can find the move he played. He played bishop e2. And this quiet move is very strong by simply defending against the threat of bishop takes f3, white exposes the bad position of black's queen on f6 and the bishop on d5 later on. Black played bishop d6 and now white played 10 c4. Already the bishop on c6 is getting very embarrassed, and white's immediately threatening to play d5 winning a piece. Black can't play knight b6 because of c5 winning a piece, and therefore his next move is about the only reply. He played queen f5. Now white played rook e1. Now black has a difficult choice here. He should now play bishop b4, attacking the rook. Then white plays bishop d2, bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, and white has the advantage, again because eventually black will run into trouble over this bishop on c6. But he played castles kingside, allowing Timon to come up with a really strong move, knight g5, 12 knight g5. This as a simple threat of bishop d3, which is very embarrassing for black. So black played bishop f4, white captured, bishop takes f4, black recaptured, 13 queen takes f4, and now white played a very strong move. He played 14 d5, embarrassing the bishop on c6. Now switch off and see what you would play for black here. Bukic played in fact queen takes g5, probably thought he was lost anyway. After queen takes g5, Timon captured on c6 with a clear advantage. Instead, bishop takes d5 would have lost immediately to knight h3 winning a piece, but best was e takes d5, c takes d5, bishop a4. Then white has queen c1 with a big advantage, but black hasn't lost. After queen takes g5, Timon played d takes c6. Now black must play knight b6, white played c takes b7, black played rook a b8. Now switch off and see if you can find white's next move. Timon played 17 bishop f3. It's very important to maintain the pawn on b7, much more important than the c4 pawn. After black plays knight takes c4, white can play queen c2 and then take the pawn on c7. After bishop f3, black played queen c5, Timon played rook c1, black played rook f to d8, white played queen e2, black played c6. Now it looks as though black's going to be able to regain this pawn on b7, but now Timon played a good move. He played 20 a3. Black took that on b7, rook takes b7, white played 21 b4, black played queen g5, white captured, bishop takes c6, black played rook c7, white played bishop f3, black played rook d4, white played 24 c5, black played knight d5, Timon played queen b5, black played rook c8, white played queen b7, black played queen d8, white played rook e to d1, black played rook c7, white played queen b5, black played rook takes d1 check, white played rook takes d1, black played rook d7, white played c6, black played rook d6. Now white played 31, bishop takes d5, and black resigned. After e takes d5, white plays c7, and if queen takes c7, queen e8 mate. And after rook takes d5, rook takes d5, e takes d5, c7 wins as well. This game clearly shows how black has to be very careful that he doesn't get his bishop on c6 embarrassed. Back to diagram 2 after bishop c6. We'll look at another game where bishop d3 is played, this time by Schubert against Balashov in the European Team Championship Moscow 77. After bishop d3, black played knight d7, white castled, black played knight gf6, and now instead of as in the Timon game where white took on f6 with check, Balashov played knight g3. Now this doesn't give black so many problems. Then Schubert was able to equalise fairly easily. He played bishop e7, white played 9 rook e1, black castled kingside, white played queen e2, threatening knight f5, black played rook e8, white played bishop d2. Now switch off and see if you can find out black's next move. Schubert played bishop takes f3. This is the only move to equalise the position for black. By exchanging off this bishop, he can play c5. White recaptured, queen takes f3, and now black played the freeing c5. Now Balashov played 13 bishop c3. After queen takes b7, black simply has c takes d4 with a good game. So 13 bishop c3, black played c takes d4, white recaptured, bishop takes d4, black played knight c5, Balashov played rook from e1 to d1, black took, knight takes d3, white recaptured, rook takes d3, black played queen d5, white played queen e2, black played queen c6, and black's got an equal position here, and he later went on to win the game after white tried too hard. But this shows that this is more an equalising defence than a winning try. Back to diagram 2. Now we're going to have a look at another idea for white on move 6. In the game Smyslov against Schubert, Berlin 79, white played the move queen d3. This is a very direct attempt to take advantage of black's bishop on c6, as will become obvious. After queen d3, black played knight d7, white played 7 bishop e2, black played bishop e7. Now white played c4. The idea of this move is a fairly quick d5, and Schubert got very worried about this and immediately decided to exchange off on e4 by playing 8 bishop takes e4, giving white the 2 bishops. But he could have got a good position by playing knight gf6, 8 knight gf6. White must play knight c3. Now it looks as though d5 is going to be very embarrassing for black, but he can play the move b6, followed by fianchetting the bishop on b7. And that gives black reasonable play, because then he can follow up with c5, and it turns out that white's queen isn't so well placed on d3 then. So that's a good move for black, but it's not obvious why Schuber's move 8 bishop takes e4 is bad. After bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, see what you would play next as black. Schuber played the move bishop b4 check. At first sight this looks very good, because after bishop d2, black captures, white recaptures with the knight, then black plays knight gf6, and queen takes b7 isn't very good because of rook b8 and a possible c5 as well. But Schuber has overlooked Smyslov's next move. Switch off the tape again and see if you can find it. Smyslov played 10 king f1. This is awkward for black because his bishop on b4 is slightly embarrassed, and white might threaten to trap it at some point by c5. Also, white's threatening immediately queen takes b7, and this simple king move, king f1, is very awkward for black. So he finds the best move, c6, both defending b7 and giving his bishop an escape route against c5. But now Smyslov played queen to g4, 11 queen to g4, and just simply threatening to take the g7 pawn. And black has insufficient compensation after knight gf6, queen takes g7, rook g8, queen h6. It's very important to note that the white king on f1 defends the pawn on g2. So black decided now to get his bishop out of trouble and played bishop f8. And now white got the advantage. He played g3, 12 g3. Black played knight gf6. White played 13 queen f4. Black played g6. White played king g2. Black played bishop g7. White played rook d1. Black played castles kingside. White played bishop d2. Now white's got a pair of bishops, and also he's got a possible pawn roller on the queen side. Schuber decided that he didn't like the white queen on f4, which was really stopping a lot of his development. It's very awkward for black here. Queen e7, white could possibly play something like a3 with the possible idea of bishop b4 at some stage. And queen b6 probably allows white to play b4 with a good position. So Schuber decided to swap the queens off by playing queen b8, and Smyslov rapidly took the opportunity by playing queen takes b8. Black played rook a takes b8, and now white had a clear advantage in the endgame. He was simply able to play b4 and a4 and start a queenside pawn attack, which combined with his two bishops proved decisive in the end. Now we'll have another look at one of the different ways of getting into the Rubinstein. This was a game Balashov-Petrosian, which came via a Tarrasch. It went 1 e4 e6, 2 d4 d5, 3 knight d2 knight f6, 4 bishop d3. Now black can play c5 against this move, transposing into normal lines after e5, but he chose to enter Rubinstein, played d takes e4. White played 5 knight takes e4. Black played knight bd7. White took on f6, knight takes f6 check. Black recaptured with a knight, knight takes f6. White played 7 knight f3. Black played c5. White played 8 D takes c5. Black recaptured with the bishop, bishop takes c5. Now white's got a choice here. Switch off and see what you would play next. Balashov played 9 castles kingside. A more aggressive plan was to play 9 queen e2 and follow up with bishop g5 and castles queenside. But he decided safest was just a castle, castles kingside. Black castled kingside. White played queen e2, 10 queen e2. Now Petrosian decided to fianchetto his queen's bishop by playing b6. Now this is a very double-edged move and leaves a temporary weakness on c6, but Petrosian has calculated that he's just about alright. After b6, white played bishop g5. Black played bishop b7. Now white played the move 12 rook a d1. Now switch off the tape and see what you would play as black here. Well, Petrosian played queen c7 and he must have thought for ages during the last few moves whether to go into this position, because it looks after 12 rook a d1 that black's got no satisfactory moves. White's threatening to play bishop takes h7 check, and queen e7 isn't very appetising for black after knight e5 with threats of knight g4, and bishop e7 is no good because of bishop takes h7 check. So it seems that black's really in trouble here, but Petrosian probably thought about this quite a lot and just simply played queen c7 in this position, which allows white to double the pawns on the king side. And most people would be terrified of this and just reject it automatically, but Petrosian may have analysed this position before and decided that black's got enough resources. Anyway, after 12 queen c7, Balashov took up the challenge. Bishop takes f6. Black recaptured. G takes f6. White played 14 bishop e4. Black played rook from f8 to d8. White played g3, stopping the black queen coming to f4. Black played rook a to c8. White played 16 c3. Black played king g7. White played bishop takes b7. Black played queen takes b7. White played knight d4. Now switch off the tape and see what you play next as black. Now bishop takes d4 would be a mistake after queen g4 check, king h8, rook takes d4, and you simply traded off the minor piece and white's got good chances of infiltrating on the king side. Petrosian's move was queen d5. Again, all the moves look terribly risky, but this move just plans to interpose on g5 when white checks, and also threatens the a pawn immediately. After queen d5, white played knight b3, black played queen e5. Now white can't gain any advantage after queen takes e5, f takes e5, and black, although it's got the double pawns, can actually create a passed pawn very easily on the king side, and white doesn't have very much advantage there. So Balashov played queen g4 and check, and Petrosian played queen g5, and this position is equal now. White has no way of getting the advantage and just has to retreat his queen, and the game was duly drawn in 38 moves. Although the Rubinstein is fairly passive, it is very resilient, and often the greatest players in the world haven't been able to break it down as white. In fact, Fischer against Petrosian in the candidates match was one example, and also here's another example. So the game Alekhine against Tartakova in 1922 went 1 e4 e6, 2 d4 d5, 3 knight c3 knight f6, 4 bishop g5. Tartakova played d takes e4. Now Alekhine played the immediate bishop takes f6. Black recaptured with the pawn, g takes f6. White played knight takes e4. Black played a good move now. Switch off and see if you can find it. Black played 6 f5. Now white played knight c3. If he plays knight g3, then after black plays c5, he'll have a very strong position. The knight on c3 is good because it enables white to block the long diagonal, whereas after knight g3, c5, black has good chances with bishop g7 or queen a5 check, or in fact he can play bishop g7 first rather than playing c5 and then play c5 later. So knight c3 is much better than knight g3. Now black played bishop g7, white played 8 knight f3, black castled kingside, white played queen d2, black played c5, white captured now. After d5, black can get a good game simply by manoeuvring his knight onto the king side. Say knight d7 and then knight e5. After the exchange of knights, he'll have very strong play on the black squares. So Alekhine took 10 d takes c5, black played queen a5. Now white has a difficult position. Black's just threatening to take on c5 and follow up with knight c6. So Alekhine played 11 knight b5, leading to an equal ending. After 1 e4 e6, 2 d4 d5, 3 knight c3, d takes e4, 4 knight takes e4, black has a choice of moves. He can either play knight f6, bishop e7 or knight d7. Against all of these, white can adopt a fairly standard plan of knight f3 followed by bishop d3 and then either castling on the king side or queen e2 followed by bishop g5 and a possible casting on the queen side. But it's more likely that white will castle short in this line. In the Rubinstein position arising after 3 knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, d takes e4, knight takes e4, white often castles on the queen side, especially after bishop e7, bishop takes f6, g takes f6, where the open g file makes it very difficult for white to castle on the king side. In conclusion, the Rubinstein is a sound defence for black, but white has the freer game and it's not to be recommended for players who are trying for a win.